Hey there! If you're new to Unity, you might be wondering where to start and how it all works. So where we'll start is by looking at GameObjects. GameObjects are the building blocks that make up a Unity game. In a newly created Unity project like this, you'll have a scene that already has two GameObjects in it, a camera and a light. If we look a little closer at the camera, we can see that this GameObject has a few behaviours attached to it already. In Unity, these are often called components. We've got a transform, a camera, and an audio listener. All GameObjects are required to have a transform component. This controls the GameObject's position, rotation and scale in the scene. If we have a look in the scene view at the camera, we can move around position and its rotation using its transform component. And the camera component, the second one here, is responsible for rendering what the camera can see in the game screen. This is the screen our players will see when they're playing our game. The scene view, which we were looking at just before, is what we use in development to easily view our game from any angle and move around a lot easier. For the remainder of this tutorial, we'll create a new game object and add our own component to it. In this project, I've already imported two images, player and a background, and for both of them I've set the texture type to be sprite, as we're going to render them as 2D images. You can create a 2D object by right-clicking in the hierarchy window and going to 2D object and sprite. Set its name to player. In doing this, we've just created a game object with a transform and a sprite renderer. This sprite renderer component will give the camera a 2D image to draw. So first thing we'll do is just reset the transform position back to 0. Then we'll attach our image to the sprite renderer in this field. We can then look in the game window to see our sprite rendering. It's great. So I'll quickly do this again for our background. Create a new sprite, resetting its position, reassigning the sprite to be the background image that we want, and then I'm going to tweak this new parameter here called ordering layer to be -1, so it's always going to draw behind our player. So the component that we're going to create is just going to print a message before our player is first rendered, and then for every frame after that while our player is still alive. So we can create a scripts folder that we're going to add our component into, and then we'll create our component by going create C# script, and we'll call it player controller. To add this script onto our player, we just drag it onto the player object. You can see it as a new component there. At the minute, this player controller component does nothing, but we'll edit it by clicking on it, which will open it in a text editor. This is the auto-generated code for our component. Compared to a normal C# class, the restriction of a component is it has to inherit from MonoBehaviour. Being a MonoBehaviour has its benefits, so our component is going to receive certain callbacks from Unity. I've got two already in here. The start function, which can be used a little bit like a constructor, and the update function, which is going to be called every frame. So I'm going to add some logging into each function so we can see them in action when we switch back to Unity. And I'll do that using debug log. To see our component running, we need to enter play mode. So Unity has two modes. Edit mode, which we've been using up to this point, it's great for setting up objects and adding components, and play mode, which is what our players are going to see. It's what the game would be running in from the start if it was opened up from the App Store or from Steam. To enter edit mode, we'll just click this button up here. And if we open up the console, we can see our logs coming out. Start for the first frame that our enemy's awake, like its constructor, and then update for every subsequent frame. So that then is the very basics of Unity, with game objects, transforms and components. There's a link to the Github repo for this series in the description if you want to have a look at that further. The next video in the series will show you how to capture keyboard input and make our player move around the screen. Thanks for watching.